Warning: the following episode of That Mental Ginger Show contains strong language and adult themes.
Hello and welcome to That Mental Ginger Show with your host Andrew Durning, aka The Mental Ginger. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos. The more likes we get, the more views we get, and the more subscribers that we gain into our faithful following will help us bring the channel one step closer to the professional content that we know you all love. On today's episode, we're talking to the amazing Donna Boyd, who's a presenter at Making Recovery Visible at Sunny Govan radio station. This is an absolutely brilliant episode, full of laughs, a little bit of suspense, and my usual quality banter thrown into the mix. I hope you enjoy it. But until then, let's cue the intro.
All right, troops.
Donna, an absolute pleasure to have you on, my friend. How you been keeping?
Thanks for asking, Andrew. I'm well. I've had a week's annual leave, which I've basically worked through as well. So, yeah.
So you had a week's annual leave, yet you still were working. Please tell me it was doing work that you actually enjoy doing rather than having been dragged back to a job that you hate to do stuff. Because that's why I put my phone on silent.
Yeah, I'm very blessed that I do a job that I love. So, yeah.
So we'll get into that in a wee minute. But what I like to do to start the show, Donna, as I'm sure many of the fans are aware, if not, well, why are these even on? Or do you even listen?
What have you been doing?
Exactly. What have you been doing with your lives? What? Not hearing this weird albino ginger guy talking pish for 3 months? Honestly. But what I like to do is to get the guests to start off by telling us their origin story, because the one thing we all have in common is that we have an origins. So Donna, for my faithful followers, please tell us your origin story.
My origin story. So if we go way back, I was born in Glasgow. My mum and dad were from Glasgow. But we moved out of Glasgow in the very early 80s, around about 1979, 1980. We moved into a wee town on the west coast called Stranraer.
Hey.
I grew up in Stranraer, but by a teenager, I was trying different substances, and it was a progression for there that I ended up an IV heroin user for many years. From 18 to when I got into recovery when I was, 40.
Wow.
So
it's a long time.
So I've got a son who is 21 now. And yeah, that's basically my story. From 18 to 40, my life was just chaos. Yeah.
So what, is it more a case of like 18 to 40, like you can't fill us in because you can't remember it, or it's too painful to talk about?
No,
I mean, both.
So for 18, when I was introduced to heroin, I'd had a lot of kind of trauma in my earlier years. And when I found heroin, it took all that away. No, it was before that, it was a kind of party scene and raves, and it was fun and it was enjoyable. We used to go up to the metro every weekend and things. And when I found opiates, it took all the pain, all the emotional and internal pain I was feeling, that took all that away. And yeah, my life became a roundabout, a prison, psychiatric hospitals, detoxes, not being able to stay clean, getting clean for periods of time, having my son to get clean, which totally selfish, but that was the insanity of my thinking while I was an addict, and getting clean but not being able to stay clean. And again, prisons was part of that journey. My son was brought up by my mum and dad, and yeah, but by the time I was 40, I was in a homeless hostel in Glasgow, and I just totally broken.
No wonder. What considering everything you went through, man, thank you for just sharing that a little bit with me. I know how hard it is to share your story, even when it's just a quote unquote normal story. But I really appreciate you sharing that with me, Donna. I really do. So I'll ask some questions that people will probably think is inappropriate, but it's because my brain is nuts, as you know. Right, so I'll ask all the daft questions, or ones that they were like, Andrew, why should you ask that? So there are shatterproof rulers out there that aren't as straight as me. Well, I've never done drugs at all. Well, I got accidentally stoned once and thought a double-decker bus was trying to eat another double-decker bus. Well, yeah, so we can probably guess which substance I accidentally sniffed. Right, so what was it like injecting heroin into your veins? I've never really heard any stories about that.
Well, when I started taking heroin, I started smoking it, and it was all that I'll never do that with it. So I was never going to be an injector. I was never going to take it that way. But once I became physically addicted, that was a natural progression of being an addict, for me anyway. I know that some people keep taking it and they keep smoking it, which, do you know what I mean? But when you've not got enough money to buy as much as you usually buy, and you can only buy a certain amount, and you know if you take it one way, it's not going to do much for you, but if you take it another way, you're going to get sorted and get the feeling that you're chasing it for. And I mean, I was a person that was scared of needles. I hated getting injections for the doctor or blood taken for the doctor. You know, when we got the jigs at school, my ma was going to be getting called in because I wouldn't sit to take it and stuff. So I was scared of needles. But the physical dependency and the obsession to be out my face was enough to make me do it.
Wow.
In recovery, we call it powerlessness. Nowadays, 12-step recovery now, and it's called powerlessness.
So tell me about your 12-step recovery. How that works.
So from the age of 18 to 40, I had been in different kinds of harm reduction medication, and in and out of prison, as I say, and got clean in there, and always came out and used again. And when I was introduced to the fellowship, it was abstinence. To solve your drug problem, you stop taking drugs, and that was the first time I had been introduced to that concept. I probably wouldn't have been ready to hear it before that, in all fairness. You know, the harm reduction medication over the years probably saved my life in certain points, because I wasn't ready to look at all the kind of underlying trauma and things like that. So over the years, that like methadone and different things, probably, and even getting prison at points, probably saved my life at those times. But when I was introduced to 12-step recovery and abstinence-based recovery, it was like I'd never tried that, and I'd tried everything else. So it was that I was open to giving it a go, and I could see in meetings and things like that, I could see the proof in front of me that people were years and years clean. They had a life, they were working, they seemed at peace with themselves, they were having a laugh. And I mean, the last thing I was doing at the end was laughing at anything. And people were getting together, having a laugh, sharing their stories. And it was all been about a 12-step program.
Wow. Do you think that the reason that when you went to prison, you got clean, you stayed clean, was because there was that structure with being incarcerated? Your day is pretty much set. You can't get anything. Unless you watch programs like Oz and The Wire and stuff like that, where that's totally just not what it's like. I can only imagine. I've never been in myself, but yeah, touch wood. There's still plenty of time. But do you think that's maybe what it was, or just having that kind of a bit more structure than what was quite a chaotic time for you?
For me, in a women's prison, you had to know the right people and go looking if you wanted anything. And when I was in prison before I had my son, I was using in prison. Do you know what I mean? But after I had my son, the time I got clean in prison was I came off my methadone, and that was because I felt really guilty, and I was missing a birthday, and I was missing a Christmas, and I thought, well, let's not make it a total waste of time. And I really, at that time, with all my heart, wanted to get clean and stay clean, and I got clean in there. Like you say, the structure, a bit of gym, not being able to get anything unless you really went looking, kind of thing. and I did manage to get clean, but within months of getting it, I was back using again, because that's all I was at that time. I was clean.
Mm-hmm. What was it like being in prison? Like I say, most people will know prison from watching your shows like The Wire and all that kind of stuff. It's not like that. What's the reality of prison like, especially a women's prison? You don't hear a lot about women's prisons.
Well, I've never watched The Wire or any of the programmes, so I'm not sure what goes on there. But
just the usual, like, you know, what drugs, stabbings, fightings, what?
Well, one of the times I was in Cottonville was a time when there was a lot of suicides, because it is so depressing.
Wow.
You know, for me, it was horrible. Do you know what I mean? You're locked away for your family. If you get visits, you weren't in Cottonville at that time. You weren't allowed to hug your visitors or anything like that. And my mum and dad stayed a really long way away, so there wasn't many visits. And when I was in, after I had my son, I didn't get any visits at all, because we had agreed that I didn't want my son to come to the prison to visit me. But it's horrible. It's horrible. You need to become part of some kind of collective of people. Do you know what I mean? Because it's strength in numbers kind of thing, but it's a load of women put together who most have got loads of trauma issues, loads of background stuff. Most have a drug problem when they come into the prison, and you're putting all these women in, and it'd be the same in the guys' jails. You're putting all these people in the one place, and it's a pressure cooker. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does sound very similar to kind of what I've heard, or what, you know, been exposed to in media and stuff like that. I didn't realize the tribe kind of gang thing was legit. You know, like you have to you essentially pick the strongest group, and you're like, if you make it in there, like that's you're kind of all right. Is it the same kind of thing where you've got to have like for lack of better words, like an initiation? Like you've got to like take somebody out to join or something, or like prove that you're worthy to be part of it. And by the way, if you don't need to answer any of these questions, if they're making you feel uncomfortable, just tell me, Andrew, I don't want to talk about it. And I won't, because I don't want to bring up any bad memories. That's not what this is about. Okay.
You know, it's back then, the way Cottonville was set up was that it was like 6 cells would all be together at night, opened up with a grill gate, so people could go in each other's cells all night and stuff like that. It's in one of the halls, and it's like you went to try and be getting on with everybody. Do you know what I mean? And people would kind of get cells next to each other and things like that. So it's a lot of wheeling and dealing and skullduggery, and it's just a lot of damaged people put together. So you can imagine.
I can imagine, but at the same time, it probably wouldn't be anywhere near to what it actually is, because I think because all these programs have not essentially glamorized prison, but it's on a screen and everybody looks at it and thinks, oh, they're cool, what be like them, or what be like that person, and they don't realize all the stuff that has got them there in the first place. They're like, oh, they're anti-heroes. I'm like, no, the guards aren't necessarily the bad guys, but I'm sure a lot of them are pricks. Because that's probably their job. One of my mates was a prison guard, and lovely guy to me, but he could be a real dick when he needed to be. So, how did you find it? Was there the whole prisoner guard standoff? Don't associate with them kind of deal?
I mean, you don't associate with them in that kind of way. It's like, and that's it. The prison back then, anyway. I mean, I've not been in for many years, but it's like the prison guards don't see you as a human being, and you don't see them as human beings, which lets you behave in ways that you wouldn't, maybe towards each other or to other people. It kind of dehumanize it a bit, and it is an us and them, they're the enemy. And that's like all through that life. I've been involved in different stuff because you're in that life. That's what it does. It dehumanizes you, desensitizes you to behave in certain ways and behaving to certain groups certain ways, like police or prison guards or just all that kind of criminal justice people. judges, things like that. It's like you don't see them as just another human being doing a job. You know what I mean? Whereas in recovery, I've got to know prison guards, I've got to know police officers, I've got to work with people that are social workers who I hated as well, because I had a son and they would have took my son off me kind of thing. So that all those old beliefs and old things are like, they all fall away in recovery when you start looking at yourself and realising it was the way I was behaving, that these people were behaving that way towards me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It was all my responsibility, the way people were treating me, because of the way. But it doesn't make it any easier at that time for somebody that would be caught in it to then try and change because you're getting treated that way, which is, I think, a lot of the work that's getting done now and about stigma and working with. There's a lot of lived experience work and stuff getting done where people are starting to talk more and see everybody as human beings.
Yeah. Well, the social work thing I can also empathise with, like, because when I took not well, that was I had to be removed from my boys for 6 weeks, and it was just instantly, I was just in floods of tears. I'm like, they're going to take my kids away from me. I'm never going to get to see them again. I'm a horrible person, horrible dad. Like it's, and they say it is like they hate when they hate, so they have to get involved because they know that's a type of like trauma that hearing the word social worker can bring on someone who is maybe just needing a wee bit of support or is struggling. So how did your son, I mean, obviously he wouldn't have coped well with his mum not being around, but what's your relationship like with him now?
We're rebuilding. As I say, he's 21. He was probably, apart from myself, the most damaged at my addiction. But with me healing and living a different way of life and being a better person, he sees that. Do you know what I mean? Part of a 12-step program is an amends process, which is a continued amends to him because everything. Do you know what I mean? It's not just about apologising and saying it's never going to happen again. Because when I did that process, it was they said do it for another few years and I might believe you, which is totally understandable because I had promised all those times that I was going to get clean and always ended up using again. And like 5 years on, we're starting to build that relationship back up again.
I'm really glad that you're starting to build that relationship back up. That's something like as a parent, I can't say, oh, I understand what you're going through, because there's no way I could understand that, man. I'm like middle class white toast guy. There is just like, and I've come to accept that as much as I was like, oh yeah, I'm ginger, we're mental, we're nuts. I couldn't understand what you've been through, but I've got such respect for you for being able to come out the other side and rebuild the way you're rebuilding. And that's the last I'm going to talk about your past. You'll be glad to know. And thank you for being so open and so honest. I really, really respect you and appreciate you doing that. So let's talk about what you're doing now. First of all, tell us how you got involved with Sunny Govan Radio.
So many moons ago, when I first moved back to Glasgow from Stranraer, it was a care manager who's somebody that gives you a prescription every week and sees you every week and tries to get you linked in with things. So that was like 15 years ago. And they asked me what I was into, and I was into music and I was into bits and pieces like that. And they introduced me to Sunny Govan, and I went round there, and Steg and Heather were working out of a space at Elder Park Workspace in Govan.
All right.
I think they had just they'd went from using the police station and broadcasting like for 1 week a year, and they had moved into full-time premises in the Elder Park Workspace. And I would go round and hang about and have a cup of tea and help out in the kind of office and tidying up and things like that. And Steg introduced me to Scottish hip hop, then would give me CDs. And I just got, so then over the years, I would just pop in with my son and get a cup of tea. And no matter what state I was in, I was always welcomed. And then fast forward into getting into recovery, I went along to do an Activate community development course with them. I wasn't ready at that time for that. It was an Activate course for a few weeks on community development, but with the option to go and study full time at Glasgow Uni, doing community development degree. I knew myself I wasn't ready for that at that time. I was still working on my foundation and my recovery at that time. But I went back and I did a radio production course that Steg took, and they offered us a show at the end of it. And I kind of thought, well, get a bit back. The 12-step recovery is all about giving back, giving back to the fellowship, giving away giving away your recovery, like taking other people, 12-stepping people we call it, letting other people know it's out there. And I thought, well, if I had heard about recovery a bit sooner, I might have found it a bit sooner, maybe no. But I thought, well, why not do a show about recovery? And that's when Making Recovery Visible was born.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter like if you would have got there maybe sooner or later. The fact is you got there, and that's the main thing. That you got there. That's brilliant that you did. Tell us about what Making Recovery Visible. What, sell it to my audience. What they know it's on Sunny Govan, thanks to Susan Sutton. But as I wind up calling her, I call her the Ginger Gilf. What? And she was ready to shoot.
Anybody wants to hear more of the gory details about my life before recovery, go and listen to one of Susan's past shows when she interviewed us. All the gory, hardcore details are in that. So yeah, I started it as a monthly show. We started doing a monthly show, and I got people that had been examples to me in my recovery, people that were doing things in the recovery, like musicians, working in different services, people with a recovery story, but that were now also doing something interesting with their lives. And I started getting people on and things, and then that was live once a month, and then lockdown happened and we started recording from home and things. And during recovery month, I got the option to go weekly because September's recovery month around the world. So I did a weekly show and then got offered to keep on weekly then, and I did. And apart from the odd week, I've taken off just because I had too much. But yeah, so do that. And again, it was just about showing the positive side of things, like in the newspapers and things, you get a lot of negativity about everything, not just recovery stuff, but anything, addiction. And it was about just trying to show put a positive spin about it and just tell people stories, more or less. That was what it was about, and that's what it continues to be about, along with some cool tunes that the guests pick, or if it's just me talking, I do kind of a show every now and again just with local music and things like that, with the rappers or local bands and things like that. If anybody's in a local band, throws your tunes over, we'll get them a spin.
Look at every past episode, I'm sure you'll find somebody that has some sort of musical talent on there. I mean, a couple of them already, Monkey Puzzle, for example.
Yep, Connor and the boys. Connor does all my graphics. Met him through the homegrown stuff that I do. Yeah.
That's brilliant. So what got you specifically into like the Scottish hip hop side of it? Why was that the music of choice for you at the time when you were on your road to recovery? Well,
it was in my addiction. Like I say, Steg used to give me CDs of stuff he had produced. So like Respect BA, Mog, him and Freestyle Master. And it's stuff I used to listen to in active addiction. I got a kind of connection with the music. So then when I got into recovery, I got help to get a camera, and I started kind of doing I suppose you could call it a kind of visual blog, the homegrown stuff, it's just about taking pictures at gigs, bit of video, and that just kind of grew a wee bit. Started putting on a gig every year when it was my clean time birthday, every December, apart for the past couple of years, right enough. But so I got to know people. Everybody knew kind of my past and they accepted me, and it was like something away for recovery, just with normal people,
Mhm.
whatever that is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right, well, because you're in, the Scottish hip hop scene, I've got to ask, and I apologise to my mate now in advance. Have you heard of John Steele?
No, that's terrible.
Sorry, Steely. But, he used to go under the name Kid Direct, and he's done a few collaborations with me, and I've gave him a new rap name, and I'm not sure if he's starting to take to it or not. It was basically because he raps, he works as a bin man. I called him the rapping bin man once, and it seems to have stuck. So anytime somebody I talk to, what my mates are like, or guys at work, or what you up to, I'm like, I'm going to see Steely. Who? The rapping bin man. Oh, the rapping bin man. Oh, it's brilliant to see him. So
I bet
Steely,
you loves you.
yeah. Well, we've been best mates since we were wee ones. So, well, I just get, and he stupidly wants to keep coming on and being part of the madness, so I keep giving him the work. It's what I do. Well, so yeah, he's got a wee shout out there. Steely, you better get your YouTube name changed to the Rapping Bin Man, otherwise no one's going to find you. Well, that's someone you could get on, because he's had a rough pass as well. Check out episode 5 of that Mental Ginger show if you want to have a look at it. But when I was in the studio, you get to see the studio as well, and it's in its humble beginnings. And Connor knows that as well. Connor's seen it too. But with him and his monkey puzzle friends. So did you ever think about spitting some raps yourself? Because obviously you're into the style. What you do like music. What did you ever think about what spitting some bars? You can tell that I have no fucking clue.
Nah. There's people out there that are good at it, so I would never even try. I write stuff just for my own self, just to get feelings and thoughts out, but I would never.
Yeah. You ever thought about passing the work on to other artists, for example, like WD? Another plug. Get again. Yeah, no, Danny's absolute legend, such a sound guy. And it's quite good because the themes of the show always keep it to be the arts and mental health, so actors, singers, comedians, anybody involved with mental health awareness, all that kind of stuff. But there's two undercurrents that seem to be coming to the fore a lot. One of them's religion, surprisingly, probably because I've had a lot of American guests on. They're all about Jesus and guns. Only kin to all the American guests. I absolutely love them. But I think the other one is the Scottish rap, because I started with John Steele, then WD came on, and then Monkey Puzzle came on. Maybe getting another couple for other episodes. Who knows? So it always seems so. I think I'm being like a one-man ginger band to get the underground rising up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. So, what does 2022 hold for you, Donna?
Yeah, I don't know. Look, the past few years, I've never really had an end goal. I've just done the next kind of thing that I've enjoyed, and it's got me this far. I started work last year. It's the first time I've ever had a job in my 46 years on this planet, and as I say, I'm blessed to do something I love, and something that everything I've done over the past few years has equipped me for. I now put on alcohol-free events for recovery for anybody, really. Everybody's welcome. But to give people in recovery a safe space to come out and enjoy themselves, and that's been great.
When did you do them? The alcohol recovery?
Different usually. We recently, towards the end of last year, we had a city centre venue time event space down by the Scenic Centre.
Aye, I know where.
They came on board and they let us use that space on a Sunday. So right now we've been having 2 events a month in there. So last Sunday we had a rave. We had Morocco Lee, we had George Bowie. We had almost 200 recovering addicts bouncing about, clean, enjoying themselves. That. You know what I mean? There's a wee clip video.
I've got to ask, was it the proper 90s techno?
Yeah.
No, there's no limit and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know if that was played, but when George Bowie dropped Bits and Pieces, they went mental. Bits and Pieces,
Oh.
it's like the unofficial recovery anthem for dances and things like that.
Yeah.
So it's like George Bowie dropped at the beginning of his set and everybody went crazy. It was brilliant.
Wow.
But yeah, it's like we do a monthly comedy show down there at the home. So like I was toying with the idea of doing a comedy night, and I got passes to go to Pollock Park, Laugh in the Park. It wasn't a Laugh in the Park. It was something like that, but it was in Pollock Park, and there was a few comedians on, and I was there with a friend, and I says, "Who do you think was the funny?" And we both decided that Mikey Motion had been the funniest on the lineup that night, and I went over and I said to him, "This is what I do, thinking of putting a comedy night on." He's like, "Oh, I'm 9 months sober at the time," so it was like pure wee, "Oh, right, brilliant."
Oh,
so he came on
fantastic.
and did one. He did one for us in Recovery Month. We ran an event a week, and they came on, and since then we kind of did a bit more. And then he opened the Vibe Room in Time. That's how I got introduced to Time Event Space, and Mikey helped us and kind of came on board to kind of helps we find comedians and things like that for our monthly. And I go to his Vibe Room every week and take pictures and things, and you can see that on his Vibe Room page or on Homegrown page. And yeah, and then we put on one for Freed Up every month. So the next one of them's Sunday the 13th, a week on Sunday. Sunday the 13th.
By the time this recording's dropped, it will have passed by then. So I'm going to say that it went absolutely brilliantly. Because everybody that I've had on, we've done that beforehand. They'll be like, "Oh, don't know how it's going to went." I'm like, "It's went brilliantly." Then a message saying, "It went great," and I'm like, "You're welcome." But you've got. Well, I'll need to get out to one of the one of those definitely, because something I've never actually shared on the podcast yet is I was a binge drinker, and it was something that I never really never understood at the time, because it was just something that, at that time in the 90s, you grew up and you would be out the Friday, the Saturday, hangover on the Sunday, roll out of wherever you're going in the Monday. That was my life for a good few years, and I didn't like kind of who I was becoming. So I kind of officially stopped drinking on my wedding, which was 10th of May, 2016. My wife has still put up with me. I don't know how. I'd always been kind of the thing with binge drinking, as I'm sure you know, is that they'll go and they'll stop for a long period of time. But then when something happens and they decide to go back on it, it's just boom. It's like they never left it. And the last time I done that was me and my mate were actually celebrating 20 years of being best pals, and he bought this bottle of whiskey. So he brought it over, and he was like, "Oh, you don't have any more?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not really feeling up to it." And I felt kind of pressured. I never said it at the time, but I did. I felt quite pressured to drink. That's always kind of how I felt. And I was like, "You know what? See, if you want to see me steaming, you fucking got your wish." And I tanked half the bottle in the space of 5 minutes. And next thing you know, I'm hanging over the sink in my wee flat at the time, wailing my eyes out, saying that Alison was going to leave me because she'd never seen me drunk. That I was saying, like, all our family hate me, all that kind of stuff. Everything just spewed out. And I never wanted her to see me like that. Never wanted her to see me like that. So much so I slept on the couch that night of my own choice, because I was like, I don't want her to even smell me in this state. But sure enough, you could, yourself, you could smell it for 3 streets away. So I got up in the morning, hangover that could kill 3 horses. And Alison just looked at me, she's like, "I never want to see you in that state again." And she never has. So that was a wee revelation. And so a sober rave sounds like my ideal, because there'd be no worries. I could rock it up with the Beck's Blues or the Copperberg alcohol freeze. I bring that to my studios and stuff, and they're like, wait.
No alcohol free beers either. See, that's the thing. A lot of people.
I never knew this. Right, please enlighten.
Right. So I was on something, and we're talking about that as well. It's like, so with abstinence-based recovery, people can't drink alcohol-free beers either, because there's a tiny percentage.
I know that Beck's Blue has like 0.05, but there are ones
so
where they
I'll
don't have
check you
any.
guys.
There are ones that are branded as alcohol free, as in like you check the back and they don't, and then they say like 0.0%. Well, would they
Yeah,
still
but
not?
it's
Would they
like
still not be allowed because it could be like a sense memory thing, like remembering the times when they used to drink?
it can be a trigger for some people, and
Yeah.
just the whole, we want people to feel like they don't even need to be looking like they're drinking to have a good time. Do you know what I mean? It's that ingrained in our culture that
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's even you go up to a bar in a place and you ask for a soft drink and it's like, is that it? And it's no, the bar staff aren't meaning it. Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
that alone can put somebody under a wee bit of pressure just to say, no, I know people that go out with their car keys and things like that just so they can say, oh, I'm driving, instead of just saying I don't drink. Do you know what I mean? And it's just about people feeling free enough.
I've done that for a lot of years.
And it's just about people
go to my local
feeling...
and I would just say no, no thanks, I'm driving. I'd always make sure the
Yeah.
car was like visible, like to the pub, so that if they looked out, they'd be like, oh wait, no, he's bluffing. But you'd still have somewhere to go, oh, you could maybe have a couple and you'd be fine. I'm like, no, definitely not. What? And like, oh, you can always leave the car here. And I'm like, no, what part of I don't want to drink? I don't like drinking. I don't like who I am when I'm drunk. Do you not get?
Yeah, and it's about trying to change those attitudes so that people feel free enough to be able to go in and say just a soft drink and no get that kind of thing back. Oh, just have one, and you know what I mean? Because they say it's that ingrained in our culture. It's like that. It's be like, would I want to take opiate-free heroin or ketamine-free ket? Or do you know what I mean? It's like it's the same kind of thing. It's the same association. It's like,
wow,
why does somebody feel like they need to look as if they're drinking? I get that some people like the taste and things like that, but it's just when we say alcohol-free, there's nothing at all.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Like, thank you for giving me a wee bit of a every day's a school day education on that one. I do still like the taste, but it's one of those where I always say to people, I like alcohol-free stuff because you can have the taste of it, but you know you can drive and look after your kids the next day. Because that's something that I really hold on to. I never, ever want my kids to see me in any state, like from drink or whatever. Even they've seen me have bad mental health days, and that alone makes me feel sick, knowing that they've seen me like that. So something like that I would self-inflict on myself and let them see. Wouldn't know that. But I'll turn up with. Can you still have full fat Coke? Because I know sometimes the caffeine can also be a bit of a trigger.
No, the bar sells soft drinks, teas and coffees. On the comedy nights we have food. No food at the rave because we want people dancing. We don't want them sitting with a full belly. So yeah, man, come along.
Yeah, I'll definitely. And if they're on Sundays, I could I could even try and get maybe some of the guys for the studio to come.
Yeah. No hangover, you can get to work on the Monday, no bother.
I know. And if it's in the city centre, I could just be like, can I crash here? And I'll literally have 10 minutes away and I've got a 24-hour parking pass. Well, I'd just crash there, like the wife would shoot me. The best one, I'd be like, oh, was it a rave last night? They'd be like, oh, so you're rough? And I'm like, no. Be great.
Fresh as a daisy.
I feel fantastic. Well, I can't hear anything, but it's great. Oh man, this has been absolutely this has been such a different type of podcast for me and a perfect one to start off the kind of new format of the show. And I'm not meaning it in a bad way. Like, I always try and be a bit more jokey and take the mic, as many of the followers know. But it's been really grounded. It's been really hard hitting at some points. Finding out some stuff that we never knew about. And you've been so open and so honest, and especially so brave. Well, I know that that's the kind of the buzzword everybody throws out about everybody when they talk about stuff. We are so brave, but I really mean it though. That's massive respect for you, even for coming on to this insanity that is this show. I've got nothing but respect for you. I wish you nothing but success with Sunny Govan. You seem to be doing brilliantly anyway on your own. Anybody that's in the Glasgow area and doesn't feel like having a drink, come to these nights, because I'm definitely going to get along. I will bribe my wife if I have to. Don't know when I'll get along.
Get a babysitter.
She doesn't really drink either now because I don't drink. Well, she doesn't.
There we go.
Well, she doesn't really like it. But she still has, because I'm still like, wait, you look after the kids most of the time. Well, you deserve that one can of cider that you're going to have. Well, but
that's it. She can stop at 1 or 2 cans. That's brilliant.
Well, she can stop because I'm the one that's controlling the bar. I'm like, right, put them away, lock up. Remember, you've got the kids tomorrow with me. remember, it's bath night. Well, you need you sober. Yeah, but we'll definitely get along. I might bribe my parents and make that one of our date nights and just not tell Alison that's date night.
Brilliant.
Yeah. But so we now come to the least favourite part of the segment. I may drop this for future episodes because it depends on how the following's been going, but I'm going to keep it for this one and see. And it's Ask Andrew Anything. Now, for my regular listeners, this is when, after me grilling my guests for about 45 minutes, this is when we get to flip it around. And the guest gets to ask me a question as I choke on my own bloody saliva. It could go very well. It could go very badly, but that's all part of the fun. So, Donna, while I take a drink of milk to try and clear my throat, do you have a question for this mental ginger?
I'll keep it quite easy. What did you want to be when you were a wee boy, when you grew up?
Actor. Wanted to be, desperately wanted to be an actor. Well, really wanted to be involved in being on stage. At one point, I toyed with the idea of being a hairdresser. Well, I seem to like that, but I just remember someone saying to me, "What, you do acting? Are you no gay enough already?" Because it was the 90s. Well, we weren't as evolved as we are now.
You weren't getting cancelled for saying things like that in the 90s.
Yeah, you weren't getting cancelled for stuff like that. But that was pretty much the gist. It was like, well, you're not gay enough already that you do the acting. Well, we all the ones that dance about. I was like, right, hold on a minute. So what do you want me to do? Oh, you play a bit of football. You play some football. I'm like, okay, so your idea of being straight is running around a park with loads of hairy ass Glasgow hard men, for 90 minutes, and then sharing a shower with them. Not gay at all. Well, they just ran about in little shorty shorts and t-shirts and all that. But I'm planning on going into an industry that's mainly female orientated. They are in those skimpy outfits that you keep talking about. And half the time, because I was a good actor and a good singer at the time, I don't mind saying, I got plenty of tail. So who was fucking gay? Saying I brought that up, they were like, but you still got to dance, right? And I'm like, no, because I can't dance for shit. It's like the guy with 2 left feet looks at me and goes, well, I'm good. I'm James Brown compared to this guy. But yeah, that's what I wanted to be. In a way, I still do. Well, because that never really leaves. Once you get that bug, I think that's my drug. I was actually thinking about this in the car home today, which is weird. Everybody has that type of addiction, like a healthy, unhealthy, whatever. They'll have something. Some people like to go for a drink at the pub. Some people like a cigarette. Some people like other substances. My drug was always being on stage, and performing and entertaining people, and making people feel good. And it was because it was the one thing in my life that I knew I was good at. I was rubbish at sports. I was rubbish at maths, English. I was rubbish at my day job. I am shit at it. I'm the dumbest. I literally am the dumbest person in that place, and I know I'm not dumb, but I cannot work my day job. I'm there purely for money, and they know that. They know that. I've never had that fact. I'm there to provide for my family. But see, when I'm doing stuff like this, I've got confidence. I've got swagger. I know I'm good, and I know that if I get better and like I'm doing, there ain't no stopping me. And I will keep on fighting to make sure that I get the word out there for everybody that you can be mental, you can have mental health issues, you could be a recovering addict, you could just be ginger, and you can go out there and you can prove to everybody that you are a fucking boss.
Yeah.
And the main reason
everybody's good at something, isn't it? It's like everybody's got a wee spark inside them that when they do it, they feel really good about it. Like even for me now, before it was taking the pictures and things like that, and it made me, but now it's like seeing everybody clean, enjoying themselves, and it just that feeds my spirit. And it's like you said, everybody's got something. Do you know what I mean? It's interviewed somebody a wee while ago about social media addiction, and everybody's addicted to their phones and social media and things like that now. And it's finding what does that for you, finding what gives you that wee oomph. Do you know what I mean? When you do it, that makes you, gives you that wee glow inside, wee ready to let grow when you do it. Do you know what I mean? And just finding that.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. That's why I'm quite fat, like, because that gives me that ready break glow. I keep saying to Alison that when I croak it, like, just stick me in the law for free insulation for a few months.
Although I'm doing a fasting now, where I'm doing a 4 and 20 fasting.
Wow.
And it's like, because I mean, obviously when you're using, you're not looking after yourself and all that, so you're quite skinny, and then you get into recovery, and you know, as I saying, you put down the spoon and pick up the fork. You know, you put down the spoon that you cook up on, and you pick up. So it's like I just get put more and more weight on. So I tried to exercise a wee while ago, and that didn't end well. I had no consistency with that. So I thought, right, I'll try and do something about my eating habits. And my friend had done it, and she lost a good bit of weight and kept it off. That's the thing. She managed to keep it off afterwards. So I'm giving it a go. So
that's good. Well, I love my food and like my soft drinks too much. And I hate exercise with a passion. I wrote a parody song about it. And got my friends to sing it. I hate it. Just hate it. I'm actually getting a guest who is on, who will hopefully be on at some point, and he is a personal trainer. So this is going to be fun because he's a good mate of mine. I absolutely love him. And I'm just going to be like, right, give me your points for good exercise, and I'm going to tell you why being a fat fuck means you'll live longer. And we'll see what happens. I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, no, that's it. And one of the reasons why I like doing this podcast as well is, like I say, this gives me the confidence to go and be the better husband, the better dad I want to be to my kids, because I know that you revealed that you got clean, had your son to get clean, which is really brave to say. And I have to admit, when I said to Alison that I wanted to have a kid, I'll specify one, and I wound up getting two. But I wanted to be a dad because I thought it would selfishly, it would cure like what was going on inside my head. I thought, right, it'll make me man up. It'll make me be the person that I need to be. Like when you see your kid, when you hold your kid, and everybody says they feel that glow and that joy and all that stuff. We sadly never got that because they were 10 weeks early and they were just put in straight into incubators. So when I was looking at them, I just felt empty. I just felt hollow. And I was like, this is not the way a dad's supposed to feel. Not realizing that actually is normal, because no one's ever told you that that's normal, that you don't have a clue, that you just want to be there but you can't, and that you will struggle, that you'll fall. So doing this type of stuff helps boost my self-esteem a bit, gives me a bit more confidence, and I pass that on to my kids. And now I don't feel bad when I'm having a bad day and I'm crying. If they say what's wrong, I'm like, Daddy's just having had a wee bad day, but I'll be fine. I'll be fine later, or I'll be fine tomorrow. And you're always going to be fine tomorrow as long as you get that fight.
And it's about being honest with them that you're doing. It's like letting them know it's okay, not to be all right all the time, and not to be on top of the world all the time, and no hiding it for them.
Yeah, I felt like I could never be emotional when I was younger, because it was that don't be a Jessie.
Yeah.
So I just kind of I did my best, and that was it. But that's why I go up to them every day now and I tell them, Daddy loves you, Daddy's really proud of you. Even if I've been screaming the head off at them for God knows how many hours, and they've drove me to the last brink of insanity, I'll still say at night, Daddy loves you very much, while also breathing a sigh of relief and praying that I still drank. But Donna, this has been an absolutely brilliant start to the new format of the podcast. Thank you so much for coming on. What?
Thanks for asking, Andrew.
Yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant. What I've had such a blast. What I really have. So, my faithful followers, please, tune into Donna on Sunny Govan Radio. I'll be getting links, dropping them below. If anybody out there is struggling, reach out, and you can reach out to either myself. You could reach out to Donna. In my case, I may not be good with the advice, but I'll listen. But if you want the expert, go to the one over there.
I'm only an expert in my own recovery, but I can signpost you to fellowships, can talk to you, I can take you for a coffee. I'm happy to help anybody.
Yeah. Just for anybody listening, just know you're not alone. There's always going to be hope.
Yeah.
So until next time, I've been Andrew Durnan. This has been Donna.
I've been Donna Boyd.
All right. Thank you. You got to say that, but might try and do that next time where the guests go out, because sometimes I did it at first. I'd be like, I'm Andrew Durnan, and they'd be like, oh wait, that's speak now.
Or that's been Andrew Durnan.
To me, to you, it's like Chuckle Brothers already. Well, I've been Andrew Durning. She has been.
I've been Donna Boyd.
So until next time, take care, stay safe. Bye bye.